Hello and welcome to this episode of the AI AEC Show. My name is Aarni Heiskanen and my guest is Steve Karp, Chief Innovation Officer at Unanet. Unanet is a leading provider of ERP and CRM solutions for government contractors and AEC and professional services companies. We will discuss AI, especially for contracting processes and proposal writing. Steve, thanks for joining us.
So happy to be here. Really appreciate the time, Aarni. Thanks.
Could you share your career journey and what led you to your current role as Chief Innovation Officer at Unanet?
Yeah, happy to do that. I'll try and distill 33 years of a journey into a few minutes here. I actually started my career in a little bit of a different spot, management consulting and investment banking. I spent 6 or 7 years doing those things, but what I took from that all the way to present day is thinking strategically about how to solve the problems or challenges or capitalize on the opportunities of a business. So even though my early career was in totally different industries, different spaces, the discipline of thinking through problems and solving things has carried with me through that day. Left those areas and really have spent the last 20 plus years in the software space, with a particular focus in financial technology, including had a little bit of an entrepreneurial stance, started the company, ran it for a while, successfully exited. A good experience as an entrepreneur, but again, kind of learning, it's one thing to be a consultant and talk about what you should do. It's another thing to actually be living and doing it every day. Have really taken on a pretty wide range of roles over the last 15 or 20 years, led sales teams. I was a CFO early in my career. And the last 15 years or so, I've gravitated towards leading product organizations and driving product strategy in a pretty wide range of software businesses, ultimately culminating in my role now at Unanet, where I lead our product management team, our user experience team, and our technology partnership team. So that's all a mouthful. The way that I kind of think about the role of innovation in a company like Unanet is I ultimately am guiding the ship on what are we building for our customers and why are we building it. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a software coder. So the how is a colleague of mine and his teams, and we make a really good partnership because I think a lot of industries, and our industry is no exception, building things is easy. And I say that with a lot of respect for my engineering colleagues. Building things is easy. Building the right things is a lot harder. And that's the intersection that's where the nexus, that's where the magic happens. Not just building a great product or a great feature or creating a great user experience or using AI in a great way, but it's delivering it to a group of customers where you are solving a very specific need, you're addressing a pain point, you're helping them do their job better. So that's a bit of my journey and kind of how I view the role that I'm in today.
Yeah, I can relate to your thoughts about strategy and I have also been a management consultant, so I have also some insights into that. But I recently discovered your AEC Inspire report, and it was about AEC firms, and 86% of AEC firms were optimistic about growth and expansion. I don't know that, well, we have changing environments right now, but in general, what key findings from that report stand out to you, and what do they suggest about the industry's present and future?
Yeah, there are some really, I think, really interesting and telling things that we saw out of that survey. And it's a little bit about your point regarding confidence in the economy, or a survey is a point in time capturing of sentiment and people's feelings. And you could do the same survey today versus 3 months ago, and you might get different answers. We really take away, I'd say, a handful of kind of interesting, I think, really impactful notes. The first is that firms that we would identify through their responses as being more mature on technology, and that's kind of a broad a broad bucket, but that to me includes, and based on the way we ask the questions in the survey, their use of AI, how cloud focused are they? Are they running most of their business applications in the cloud? How good are they on data? What sort of governance they have? Firms that are more positive or check more boxes in those areas are what we call tech forward or more tech mature firms. And about half the survey respondents fall in that category. Um, and the correlation is those firms that are more tech forward or tech mature express even higher degrees of confidence in their ability to tackle the big challenges, right? And in the survey, the top two challenges that the respondents talked about was, one, the economy, and two is resourcing. So the ability to find and retain and mature great people. Ironically, operational efficiency, which you could argue AI is a start to get into how it can support that, was number 3 on the list. So not to say it's unimportant, but it was not. So takeaway one is tech forward firms feel even better than the population at large, which makes sense because they tend to be more aggressive on solving internal things so they can be more outward focused. The flip side of the coin is, and I'll just give one really interesting data point that we found, but I think it speaks to a larger thing, is a third of the firms that responded in the survey admitted that they primarily use spreadsheets for business intelligence and analysis. And look, I'm a lover of Microsoft Excel as much as the next person, but and so there's just this real dichotomy of I don't want to say haves and have nots, but some firms are I think treading water and just trying to keep their head above water and being really pragmatic about how to think about things like AI and new technology. Others are just more consciously being leading forward with it. And I think that's just really, there's no, so for as many people as are tech forward, there's almost as many people that are, still have a ways to go.
Mm. Yeah, Excel is still the most popular management software, guess, in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so if you think about data, how critical is data management in today's AEC industry? And do you see what kind of steps firms could take to improve their performance in this area?
Yeah, no, I would say this is the most critical question around AI, is data. And um, it's not sexy to talk about data, right? Talking about AI and generative AI and LL, like that stuff sexy and gets the headlines. Nobody really wants to talk about data because it starts to get very nitty gritty and granular, and just it's its own world. And I think my view on this, and what comes out of the survey is, there are dimensions that are important around data management, around the quality of the data, how accessible the data is. I think there's a little bit of a fallacy that structured data is always the desired end state. I'd argue that is not necessarily the desired end state. AI and related technologies are equally good at handling unstructured and structured data. They're different, so they require different approaches. I'd actually back the data conversation all the way up. And if you take data management, which is the term you use to start the question, let's just drop the word management and just use the word data. We hear so many of our customers talk about they don't even have the data they'd want to then apply intelligence and automation and modern technology. And a lot of data for AEC firms, and I'll use the opportunity capture and the go no go process of business development cycle, right? Those run off of data, right? How can you make informed decisions about pursuing a new project or not when we don't capture effectively data on past projects, past opportunities we lost, who did we lose it to, why did we lose it? And that requires human change management, right? So with a CRM platform, for example, the ability to apply AI within a CRM platform is only as good as the amount of data that's in the CRM platform. That's the point where our customers tend to really acknowledge challenges, because they're trying to get their business development teams or marketing teams or other teams to fully use the tools they've been given. And that's when AI can really come in and add value to the data. So data management is important, but data, full stop, is even more important.
Well, if we think about contracts, how would you say AI can transform how AEC businesses compete for contracts in general, particularly in content creation, data analysis, and operational efficiency and forecasting and so on?
Sure, sure. We see two particular aspects of the proposal process or the business development process in general that are ripe to be using AI today, meaning the technology and the tools is ready for prime time. We're not talking about things that are still a couple of years out. And so the first is to efficiently use AI to provide better access to knowledge repositories within a firm, right? And knowledge repositories, that makes it sound like there's one neat central place where everything sits and it's very organized. And the reality is most firms do not particularly organize data that well. And, so past projects and past proposals and resumes and these things may be sitting in a CRM, or they may be sitting in some unstructured SharePoint or Google Drive, or, all sorts of different places. And so using AI is just really, really, really effective at going out to unstructured data. So documents, PDFs, Word documents, it doesn't really matter. And providing very specific insight on the relevancy of past content to things you're now considering. So this is before you know exactly if this is an opportunity to go after or not. It's adding intelligence to the early phases of go, no go that we think is largely a no brainer. There are safe, effective ways from a technology perspective that the AI does a really good job of just surfacing information, and not just surfacing it, but recognizing relevancy in a way that is really hard for humans to do and really hard for traditional keyword search-based tools to do. So, right, if you're looking for past projects you've done on building bridges, and let's say you just do a keyword search on bridge, that's great, but it's not going to capture a project where you were building an overpass. Overpass is not a bridge, but there's a lot of similarity. And so AI, and I won't get into the technology that kind of makes it all work, but AI is really good at capturing relevancy. So that's the early stage of the process. And then as you move into the more, into the stage of the business development cycle where we're going to pursue this project, we need to write a proposal, we have to respond to a very complex set of requirements, right? So this could be this could be a commercial project, it could be a state or local project, it could be a federal project. Particularly if you're an AEC firm bidding on state, local, or federal work, you tend to be presented with very complex, long form RFPs with hundreds of potential requirements. Again, using generative AI and kind of related AI technology to assist in the drafting and compliance monitoring of your response. So we don't think AI is ready to push a button, get a full-blown finished proposal, hit send, off you go. All you're going to get is a proposal that sounds like it was written by ChatGPT, right? Capturing the voice of your voice is important. And so we think AI is really effective for giving you a 70% complete draft and then allowing real strategic crafting of the 70% to 100%. So I'll pause there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's also important from risk management point of view. So you can identify potential risks in advance. So yeah, but your report also mentioned that AI platforms can reduce RFP response times by up to 70% and cut proposal generation costs in half. How is that possible?
Yeah. So again, it's if you think about the most laborious part of drafting a proposal, it's that I have a blank sheet of paper. I have an RFP over here that I want to respond to, or a project I want to bid on. Um, in my brain, or in the brain of my team, we know we've done 50 projects in the past that are probably going to be good projects to reference. We know we have team members with the right certifications and experience. Um, the kind of old way, traditional way of doing that is humans are running around sifting through SharePoints, looking through resume databases, and beginning to piece together all the initial drafting that, frankly, um, is not necessarily super heavy on intelligence. It's more rote, the baseline stuff that you have to respond to, that AI can do in hours what it would take a team of people days to do, right? So it allows you to kind of really accelerate the, you know, early stages of the process. So you're not spending weeks just coming up with an outline, coming up with, all right, here are the 10 projects we're going to highlight because these are most relevant, or here are the team members we want to highlight because they have the right experience. AI can bring all that together in hours as opposed to days or potentially even weeks, and allow a smaller team to really focus on the infusing the proposal with the secret winning strategy. And the AI is not going to do that. We don't think AI is good for that, but we do think it's really good for um, all the super hands-on, labor-intensive, running around with teams of people looking for past information that is somewhere, or somebody has it in their head, so I have to go talk to them and get it out, and I have to write it down, and it's the way proposals have been written for since the beginning of time, and it's that part of the process that, again, when you go from days to hours, that's where the time and the money savings comes in.
In the 1990s, we talked about knowledge management in in enterprise environments. Is is this the ultimate solution for that problem?
Yeah, I think it ultimately is, and this ties back to how firms use enterprise platforms like a CRM, right? Because our view is that a platform like a CRM, or CRMs historically have been viewed as tools to do fairly operational, mundane things like track a pipeline or keep track of contacts. And CRMs need to do all that stuff. So don't get me wrong, that isn't changing. But a modern CRM should be, in our view, that is the enterprise hub for knowledge, for everything about work that's been contemplated, work that's been proposed, work that's been done, team members, qualifications, all that stuff. And so pulling it out of disparate Google Drives and SharePoints and having it in a central, we use the term system of record, where it is the singular source of truth for all information about, the firm's business development process. And I use the business development, use that in a broad sense, everything about finding and winning business, um, and tracking that business, or tracking the progress of the proposal, and then obviously an ERP platform or some sort of financial tools where winning business migrates into, so you can track actual project performance and resource management, all those things.
Well, if you now take your consultant hat, what short-term and long-term strategies exist for AC firms to derive value from their from AI in these contracting processes? What is needed?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are, a good place to start. There are, many, and this isn't, I'm not gonna, it's not about one being better than the other. There are many solutions that can be used as purely standalone tools, right? So um, start using something so you can understand, right? So um, not try and re-engineer knowledge management overnight, because that is a big change management exercise. It's a big technical exercise in some cases, but let's start with, I'm going to take one of these proposal automation tools in the marketplace, and I can load into it a small sliver of my knowledge, my knowledge base. I can take here are the last 200 projects I've worked on, right? We've worked on 10,000, and I have 10,000 project proposals in somewhere in my firm's, you know, systems. But let's just take the last 200 and let's load it up into this platform. And the next RFP that we get an opportunity that we decide to pursue, we're going to put that in there too. And we're going to work with it, and we're going to let the tool support us on, right? So it's not trying to integrate it into, you know, the broader capture cycle or my CRM or because that is a more concerted effort that requires buy-in, that it's worth integrating all these things because I can see the benefits. So start in a, you know, um, proof of concept pilot, however you would like to think of it, but sort of a low stakes environment, right? The worst case situation is I've invested a couple hours, I loaded in 200 documents. Here's a proposal my team is working on. The worst case is I spend half a day playing around with it and I come out of it feeling like this is kind of cool, but I'm not sure it's changing things in a way that, you know, so find low stakes way to just invest the time and experiment and right where the upside is great, but the downside, there is no real downside. And we do that as a company too at Unanet, right? Because we unfortunately we don't have endless resources to go pursue all this stuff either. So we find things that we think this can be a game changer for our customers. We're gonna invest the energy. We're gonna go off and test it. We're gonna come back with a hypothesis on how we feel, and if we feel good, we're gonna then invest the energy to bring it to our customers.
Well, maybe you already answered the question that I had in mind about the common concerns AEC firms have regarding AI adoption.
Yeah. Obviously, security and privacy and understanding when you're using an AI. I think the number one thing, and this is where governance, I know somewhere in the conversation we'll probably talk about it. I haven't brought it up yet, but this is where governance actually matters, where firms have some sort of body that is guiding and vetting tools that are being used, right? Because that's how you enforce, I guess, for lack of a better word, a consistent view around privacy and data security, for example. So understanding that whether a tool is taking your information, the data you're putting in, and whether they're using it to train models, whether it's going out to the internet or whether it's contained, partitioned off specifically for you as an individual company using the tool. These are things that it's a lot to expect a layperson in an AEC firm to it's not really fair to ask them to figure out all those questions. And that's where governance bodies can be really effective in helping a firm. These are here are the good, here are the do's, here are the don'ts. Every tool, and we do this at Unanet, every tool that a team member wants to use internally, even if it's just to make their function more efficient, gets reviewed by our governance board, which is kind of a cross-functional team of leaders. And we have a specific point of view on what risks we're willing to accept and what risks we are not willing to accept. And that gets propagated across the team. So security and data privacy are number one. I think with regard to the use case we just talked about, using AI to help write proposals, hallucinations obviously are really, the quality of the work is really critical. And one of the things that we found in this space, and we acquired a company in this space about 6 months ago, is that every customer that uses this proposal automation platform we acquired is set up with its own instance. The data is all containerized. We don't go out to the internet. It's when you go out to the internet to try and enrich data and enrich information is when you start to get strange things getting written in your proposal, because the AI is opening the lens of information infinitely wide, whereas we just believe that's the difference between an all-purpose AI tool and a more purpose-built, tailored AEC or GovCon tool, for example.
Mm. And there are definitely hundreds of tools available for companies, but also it's possible to tailor your own solution. How do you feel about having your own solution versus using something off the shelf?
It's a really great question, and I think we see this a little bit more in the government contracting space than we have in AEC space, where there are more purpose-built GovCon specific products they're off the shelf, but they were built from day one for GovCon. So, it's kind of a hybrid. I mean, it is an off the shelf product, but it was built very specifically to support the needs of GovCons. We see a little bit less of that in the AEC space. So I think there's still a period of time where firms in the AEC space are exploring the use of tools that maybe were not custom built for AEC out of the gate. Now, one of the interesting crossovers that we're finding is a lot of AEC firms do a lot of work in the state and local space, for example, in the US. And so there's a lot of commonality between a tool built for government contractors responding to a federal RFP and an AEC firm responding to a state and local RFP. There's enough similarity between a federal RFP, federal government contract opportunity, and a state and local one that the tools can work pretty well. Off the shelf, they work 70% as well for GovCons as they do for AEC. But I think there are very few tools that I can think of that come off the shelf that are really, really tightly focused and work particularly well and specifically for AEC firms. So there's going to be more long-winded answer. There's going to be a little bit more trial and error for AEC firms, I think, for over the next couple of years, and there might be for GovCons, just to use the other space that we play in.
Hmm. But I'm sure now it's crucial for AEC firms to start gaining experience in AI, even if they are in the early stage of their journey. But I would say that everybody's kind of early stage.
Yeah,
Gonna say,
yeah, yeah. I mean, going back to the Inspire survey we started with, one of the other things that jumped out to me is you could really separate the entire body of respondents in that survey into three groups, and almost equal. They're not quite equal, but let's just say for the sake of discussion, they're equal. A third of the firms use AI today. A third of the firms don't use it, but are planning to use it, and a third have no plans. And that's just a really interesting, and I think that mix obviously is going to change over the next couple of years. But the fact that a third of the firms that responded in the survey said they had no plans to use AI in any part of their business tells you, that's a little bit telling of the mindset, and that's not a judgment I'm making. It's the reality where, and I think I haven't looked at the data enough recently. I think that third that have no plans to use AI tend to be smaller, have fewer resources, and they probably just haven't had the time to invest in beginning to explore and experiment. I'd argue those are the firms that probably could most benefit from AI, because they're never going to win the day with more bodies and more resources, because it's not an option. So, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out when we do our next Inspire, our 2025 survey.
um, well, what is your vision for the future of the AEC industry uh, regarding AI, and how is your company going to support them
Yeah.
in the future?
Yeah. I mean, where we see it going, and obviously part of my job and my role is to kind of triangulate on where do we see customers wanting to go or needing to go, and then what's our point of view, and where do we want to help them go, because we're looking through it through our lens. And I think the holy grail here, and this vision is going to translate into how we build our product, is to get away from, you know here's a CRM, and here's an ERP, and here's a proposal automation platform, and here's a tool that scours the internet looking for um, publicly available information on opportunities that you may want to bid on. That's all going to kind of converge into a more singular type platform where um, users are guided through the journey that their role requires everybody guided through. So if you're a business development professional, what you care about is what opportunities exist in the marketplace that suit me, right? And there's lots of data that can help inform that. Um, How do I find those opportunities? How do I bring those opportunities into the business and manage the decision making and the process of pursuing? Um, how do I win actually physically write a proposal to win the business? And then once I've won the business, how do I manage the contract, the financials, the resources? And all those things today are happening in many different platforms for most of our customers because this has all grown up in a fairly siloed way. And people thought of CRMs in a very narrow light. And people think of ERPs as a very specific tool. And I'm not even sure calling them CRM and ERP are doing justice to what the future kind of holds. So we view it as a truly unified, connected, orchestrated experience where business developers use the platform to do their jobs. A CFO or a controller or an accounts payable clerk uses the same platform, but their job is really different and they're exposed to the things they need to do. And there's this seamless orchestration of data happening so that it's not the user doesn't have to think about, oh, I have to go here to get this data and here to get that data. It's all kind of being orchestrated for them. And so, you start to get into things like agentic AI, which is now the
Mm.
big word where the AI is not just doing particular tasks, they're doing entire soup to nuts tasks. And they're constantly telling you, I just did these 3 things. If you want me to do it differently, tell me. Otherwise, so it's this is more the computers taking over future sort of thing that people, some people love, some people probably are terrified of it. And there's reasons to be really cautious. So our vision, and I think what customers want, they're tired of having 5 platforms, each of which does specific important things. It all has to come together and be harmonized in a way. And I think um, sounds easy it's easy to talk about it. It's technically right. That's what we get paid to do is figure this out. That's what my team gets paid to do is figure this out.
Okay. Yeah, there would be a lot more to talk about, but maybe at this point I have to ask you, where can our listeners find more information about what you're doing and contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're, www.unanet.com is the company webpage. And I think we have a really good interactive web presence, or people can learn about who we are, a little bit about the history, but more importantly, the products and the solutions we provide. We're on all, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can find us on all the social channels. And as well, I'm obviously on all those channels as well. And um, happy to have a interaction, whether it be people reaching out to the website and just poking around and learning more, or reaching out directly to me via LinkedIn. That's always LinkedIn's probably the best place to get me. And yeah, happy to do it.
Thanks, Steve, for sharing your insights. And um, it's clear that AI is reshaping how AEC firms approach contracting and proposals from now on. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to the AI AEC Show. Until next time, stay curious and keep building smarter.